Hello friends and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and if you're new to the channel, well firstly, thanks for clicking on the video, and secondly, you're about to witness my very first reaction video. That's correct, this old Scottish gamer is going to react to an old English gamer on video game word pronunciation, and if you want to see that, you just wait until after these. So exactly like I said in the intro, I'm going to be doing my very first reaction video, and the video I'm going to react to is, well, how do you pronounce? A video put out by Sean at Retro Game Revived, a very good friend, but I'm going to have to check it out and react because pronunciation, especially when it comes to video games, is something close to my heart. So let's just take a look, and I'm going to press click to play.
Hi everybody, and welcome to a new video, and a little bit different this time from my lock-up show.
Now, anyone who doesn't know Sean is a fantastic YouTube content creator. He does the wonderful, obviously, lock-up show like he just mentioned, and if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description. But of course, we need to get on to see the meat and veg of this particular video, where he's going to show us how he pronounces certain video game related words, and is he doing it correctly? Well, I'm going to find out, so let's get to it again.
Now I'm going to kick off with, I think there's only myself that's ever pronounced it this way, but yeah, here it is on screen.
Now this is a great word to start with because obviously it's not an English word. Yes, we read it in English, we spell this in English, but it's not a word from the English language. It's obviously Japanese, and I'm going to be quite curious to see how our Sean handles this.
Yeah, Shenmue, Shenmue, Shenmue.
Right, straight off the bat we have a mispronunciation. Shenmue. Shenmue. Now I don't understand where he's getting that from. Maybe trying to, I don't know. Over here in the UK and most of the English speaking language, or most of the English speaking world, we don't pronounce the E at the end of words. We cut that out, it's a silent E. It gives emphasis to the consonants beforehand, or the vowels beforehand, but that's it. I think what Sean is trying to do here, he's trying to emphasise that E to maybe make the word sound a little bit more exotic, but let's have a look and see.
I've always said Shenmue. Everybody's corrected me on it, and I've not heard another single person say it any other way. I believe.
Now, yeah, I've got to stop here again. He's never heard another single person say it that way, and there is a reason for that. He's mispronouncing it, and mispronouncing it quite badly, but let's hope that during the course of this he does get the right pronunciation and he moves forward with that.
Pronounce Shenmue, Shenmue, some may...
Right, not so much Shenmue, but Shenmue. Shenmue is the correct pronunciation for this, and I hope at some point he picks that up because Shenmue kind of sounds a bit Hong Kong fooey, and it's not the right road to be going down, so let's get back to him.
I just always have, and I've even thought to myself, why did I start saying it? Maybe the only thing I can think of is maybe to make it sound more Japanese like. Shenmue.
And there we go, he's tried to make the word sound a little bit more exotic and it's just not come out right. But now he knows, or surely he knows, the real pronunciation, and he's going to go forward with that from now on. So come on Sean, let's move
Next
on.
We've got...
Now this is an interesting one again. Again, we've got another word that's been imported from Japan, and it's a word that I've heard pronounced incorrectly only one other way. There tends to be only two ways, but let's have a look and see how Sean gets on with this particular word.
So I'd say this is one of the Eddie's favourites, This one and the next one, certainly.
So he's just brought up the name Eddie, and for anyone who doesn't know who he's referring to Eddie at Rollercore. Now, Rollercore, that's an interesting channel in itself, and you should check it out because Eddie's a fantastic guy. He has a wonderful collection of import games. He does love his shoot-em-ups, his shmups, but we can't all be perfect. But another interesting point with Eddie's channel, Rollercore, he spells with an X in between the E and the C, so Roller X Core. Again, he likes to complicate things, so it'll be interesting to hear what Eddie has to say about this particular word as well.
And I think I've heard a few different iterations of how this is pronounced. I say Tato.
Right, so he says Tato. Now, Tato to me sounds far too much like it's a derivative of potato. Tato, as in Scottish, we would say tatty or totty. So I have no idea why he's decided to land on Tato, because one, it's the wrong thing, but let's hope he moves it on and gets the correct pronunciation, because what do you do with a Tato? A Tato, well, let's just cut to see what hobbits would do.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
So Tato is right out of the window here. No, it's not Tato. Let's hopefully see if he gets a bit closer to what it should be here.
I believe Eddie says something like Taisho maybe.
So what he's indicating here is that Eddie at Rollercore has stated that this particular word should be pronounced Taisho. Now, I can't confirm or deny this because I haven't spoken to Eddie about it, but I would find it quite surprising if he did, because again, that would be the wrong pronunciation.
There is other variations. Taito.
Taito, no, and that's a completely new one for me.
So, Taito, Taito.
And there we go, at the end he lands on the correct pronunciation, and it's Taito. Taito, two sharp sounding words side by side, very Japanese and spot on. Now let's hope he goes forward with that. I don't want him to be doing the you say Tato, I say Taito song, you know, like the tomato, because it's just wrong. Okay, so this is another fabulous example, because what we have here is what you would read as an English speaking reader is very definite. Unfortunately, however, it's not pronounced like that. Now, I know the proper pronunciation for this particular phrase, and I'm hoping that our boy Sean does too. But it is an interesting one, it's an unusual one, and if you don't know this particular phrase, you will probably get it wrong. But there's nothing wrong with that if you're just reading it. If you're reading it, you won't obviously hear it. You need to hear someone say it before you fully understand how to pronounce this phrase.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say Tate Mode.
And there we go, straight in with it, Tate Mode. That's exactly how an English speaker, a native English speaker, would read that sentence, that phrase there. Tate, because we have the silent E to emphasise the A, to raise it to a capitalised version, making it Tate Mode rather than what it is actually, and I don't want to say it just in case our boy here gets it correct.
Apparently, the way Eddie says it and the correct way of saying it is Tate Mode.
And there we go, Eddie has come in with sound advice this time, and it is actually Tate Mode. Again, I'm quite surprised with this. Now, he's probably not quite looked at it the same way as Shenmue, because with Shenmue, as we see, our boy Sean here, he decided to emphasise that E at the end to make it sound more exotic.
Shenmue.
Now, if he had done the same thing with Tate Mode, then he would have came to the same result. So maybe if he switches over his Shenmue with his Tate Mode, he will be right in both counts. So let's keep going with this. This is quite interesting. Now, this is a classic example because there's just no way a Western audience could look at this and read it any other way than what it's spelt like, and unfortunately that's not how to pronounce this particular game title. It is, however, a good example of the Japanese game developers obviously thinking that we over here in the West can't handle the high quality RPGs that they put out, so what they want to do is put in a barrier like a name that we can't pronounce just so we can't find the game. I think that's terribly unfair, but let's just see how Sean approaches this, and can he pronounce it correctly anyway.
Now it's not really a game I'm familiar with.
Well, that's not a good start, because if he's not familiar with the game, he's probably not familiar with the way to pronounce the title of this game, so I doubt he's going to get this one correct.
Do know there is a version on the Master System.
Now, a version in the Master System is something that he should actually be quite familiar with. If it's on his beloved Master System, then surely he's at least heard people talk about this game, so I'm crossing fingers here.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically 2 letters. I suppose there's 2 ways of saying it. Wise or ease.
So there we go, 2 ways to pronounce this game. The first one is, he said, wise is exactly how you would read it as a native English reader, because it's a Y''S, meaning wise or belonging to Y, you know, like the boys game, or the boys RPG, or the boys JRPG. And this brings me back to the point that obviously the Japanese developers, especially in the early days, thought that we over here in the West couldn't handle these quality RPG titles, so gave them names that we couldn't communicate properly, so we couldn't find them to find out if we could play them in the first place. So let's get back to Sean, because he says the proper pronunciation obviously of the game, and that is ease.
Or you could even probably say just YS.
And there we go, he does so well. He gets the first YS out of the way, he gets in that perfect ease, which is of course the name of the game, and then he comes in with a third and completely ludicrous title, YS. Why would he? That's what I asked myself. So let's get back to Sean.
As far as I know, there is an apostrophe between the Y and the S, making it plural. So
now I think he's just trying to stretch this out a bit, because obviously if he said ease, then he knows that that is the name of the title. So yeah, he's definitely just stretching this out a bit for his audience as far as I'm concerned.
I would either say it's ease or wise.
And as you see, he leads in there. I would say it was ease or wise. Now when he says ease first, he reinforces the fact that he in fact does know, and he's being a cheeky chappy and just trying to string us along for a few extra seconds in this video. But well played, Sean, well played.
Chances are it's ease, but I said wise just purely based on how it is. It's just 2 letters, Y-S, wise. Next we've got,
now this is an absolute classic of a mispronunciation. I mean, obviously I understand what's happening here. I know the name of the game, I know how to pronounce it, and I know a little bit about not only the 2 words that we see here, but the phrase that they come from as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Sean tackles this particular title.
So I've been saying, and I know a lot of people have been saying this wrong for a long time.
Right, so straight off the bat he's saying that he knows he's been saying this wrong, he knows a lot of people have been saying this wrong, and this is a fact. I have heard this game mispronounced so many times that, well, it's just hard to believe, but he seems to know he's doing it wrong, so hopefully this is a change in the ways, but let's just see what he says to that.
I obviously say Deus Ex.
And there we go. In with the juice. I mean, it's not juice. That's not juice. This is juice. That's not juice. This is completely different. Now, I'm going to let him speak on, see where he goes from there, and then we'll maybe talk a bit more about the actual pronunciation and where that pronunciation comes from.
Apparently, it's probably Deus Ex.
So he thinks it's a possibility that it's probably Deus Ex, and he would be spot on being Deus Ex because it is in fact Deus Ex. It comes from the Latin phrase Deus Ex Machina, which means a god from the machine. Now you can see where they've decided to take that phrase and put it to a game that's basically about cyborg or cybernetic implants and very cyberpunk, and use that part of that title for that. It doesn't completely make sense, and if you want to look into the Latin, or if you want me to discuss the Latin, then we'll drop that down in the comments, because I could go into depth about that as well. But as we see, yes, Deus Ex, Deus coming from the word God and Ex from. So let's just go on and see how he copes with the fact that he thinks that this probably definitely is Deus and not Juice.
Deus Ex. Deus Ex.
And then he goes on to Deus Ex. No, it's definitely Deus Ex, as in Deus Ex Machina. So I think he's padding out again, but we'll just have a go and have a...
Maybe the E and the X are pronounced separately. It's a game, I've never played it, I have heard of it.
Now that is the biggest crying shame. He really should go back and play Deus Ex, and he should play Deus Ex Human Revolution, the second one.
But yeah, I would say Deus Ex. Yeah, probably just on how the EU and S are put together. Juice. I don't know. Right. So we have to stop again because he knows the answer is Deus. He knows this is correct, and he'll still go back to saying Juice. Now, it's up to him. It's his life choices, but I do worry for him moving forward if he confuses God with Juice. And let's go on to the next one, which is only recently just cropped up, and I was talking to Retro Bear the other day, and he picked up on it, and it's this.
So yes, this is another interesting word. I will be interested to see how Sean copes with this particular word, this title here, because there are some references back to some of the other pronunciations that he's made, and made badly at times, but we'll have a look and see. What's also curious is that Retro Bear has jumped into this debate with Sean, so hopefully that, because the Retro Bear's experience is second to none, will have pushed him in the right direction. So let's see how Sean handles this particular title.
Lumines. Now, that is how I would say it.
So straight away, Sean there has demonstrated that he's going to pronounce this game incorrectly. And it's quite interesting because it takes us back to Shenmue. And also Tate. So these are two examples where he has sort of confused the silent E and left it out or put it in where it shouldn't be, and here again we'll see another example of that. Sean and his misuse of E.
Lumines, there's Lumines, possibly Lumines.
And finally, there we go. He rattles through a few combinations of these words to get to the right title, and Lumines. Now, if you're asking me honestly, I believe that was the Retro Bear who whispered that in his ear just so he would know to say it during this video and get that one correct and out the way at some point. So, there we go again with another example of Sean misusing E. Now this is an interesting game title to bring into the whole mix of pronunciation, because there are several slight ways to pronounce or mispronounce this particular game title, and I'll be frankly honest, I don't think I've heard anyone at all say this exactly 100% correctly. Now we will have a look at Sean, see what he comes up with, see the variations that he's heard, and hopefully we'll hear him pronounce it properly.
Pokemon. That's how I'd say it. Pokemon.
Pokemon, that's how Sean's going to pronounce this particular game title, and it's a fairly common pronunciation of this game. It's not quite correct. Again, I'm not sure we'll hear a proper pronunciation until I display one at the end if I have to, but we'll keep going with Sean anyway.
Pokemon. I have heard Pokemon and Pokemon.
And yes, there we hear several differences, slight differences to the pronunciation, but still none exactly quite correct.
But I would just say Pokemon.
So it looks like he's probably going to be moving on there, and this is probably a good time to actually demonstrate how to pronounce this game title properly. So what I'll do is I'll put it up on the screen phonetically so you can read it as well as hear it as I say this word, and hopefully going forward you will be able to pronounce this game correctly every time. And this is how we pronounce it. It's Nintendo Cash Grab. Nintendo Cash Grab. Now you just put that together, say it nice and fluidly, Nintendo Cash Grab, and there you go. That is how to pronounce that particular game title, and I hope that helps you moving forward.
That'll make the
Well, this
mind
is a good
Pokemon.
word indeed, and it's a good word to talk about after obviously we hear how Sean attempts a pronunciation of this, because obviously it's not a real word. This is, well, all words are made up, but this is a word that has been made up as like a brand name, a title. So let's see how he goes on.
So this was a popular shooter from the Commodore 64.
Right, so I'm going to have to stop Sean right here. Yes, it's a semi-popular shooter, but it was also on the much superior ZX Spectrum, not just the Commodore 64. So if you do take the notion to play this game, know that there are far better options than what have just been offered here. But we'll get back to the pronunciation part now.
By Thalamus, and I would say Sanxion. Sanxion.
So yes, Sean has got this one absolutely spot on. The game is pronounced Sanxion, but look at the word itself. It is spelt with an X in the middle. Now there's two reasons for this. Well, there's one big reason for this. The game was released in the 1980s. We were in the middle of quite a fierce Cold War, and you wouldn't want your game getting swallowed up with all the other important sanctions that were happening at the time. But looking into that, it's also way ahead of its time, because putting an X in there instead of a regular consonant, well, that was so 1990s and early noughties. You would have thought that game was definitely from 1997 or maybe just slightly beyond, not from the 1980s. So Sanxion, pronounced Sanction, spelt with an X, fantastic title and fantastic catch on the pronunciation there. Good man, Sean. Let's move on.
But I suppose some people could say Sanxion.
And of course, those people would be wrong for the reasons that I have just explained.
Sanxion, maybe, or they could even have their own way of, pronouncing or not pronouncing the X. But I have always said,
which is also an interesting thing. I did mention earlier Eddie from Rollercore. Remember, he puts an X in his title, so it's Roller X Core when you're searching for him on YouTube. But it doesn't get pronounced Roller X Core, it's just Rollercore. Another quirk from our good friend Eddie. Link will be in the description, so you'll have no problem finding the channel when you're looking for him too, especially when you want to talk to him about Tate Show.
And that leaves us to the last one, which it's more of, I think it's more of a regional accent way of pronouncing this. I'll show you what it is.
So the last one, and we have got this for the last pronunciation test, and he reckons the problems people are going to have with this is regional pronunciation, so maybe some dialect and accent coming through. Now, you can give a bit of leeway for dialect and accent. Yes, I myself I'm from the west of Scotland, and I do have that west of Scotland accent. I do try to enunciate my words a little bit better when I'm speaking to you out there, but in general day to day I will have a bit more of an accent. But let's see how this is coped with by our good friend Sean, and where he's heard it differently, because that is something I'm interested in hearing too, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think many people pronounce this properly either.
Yeah, it is. It's the Master System. Master System.
Well, that did seem to lead into almost a Metallica song there.
Master.
But I like the emphasis on the master that he has for the beginning of that part of the word. I'm sure he'll go on to complete the rest of it properly. I'm still curious to see where he's going with the mispronunciations.
There's no R between the A and the S in master. It's not Mars. Master system. Leif Retro 1 and Griffo are the main culprits for this master system.
So yes, he's probably looking at regional accents and dialects here. And yes, there are some regional accents and dialects that are a bit odd, a bit unusual, especially the further south you go in the British Isles. And once you get right down to the bottom, they do throw a lot of R's into most words. But you know what? It isn't quite a mispronunciation, but nothing that I've heard so far is an absolute 100% pronunciation either. But we'll get on to that. And I'm going to throw up another phonetic spelling for you. And here we go. This is how you pronounce this system. Better than the NES. And once again, better than the NES. So I hope that helps you with your pronunciation of the Master System going forward. And yes, that was pretty much a joke like most of this video was, just to draw some attention to Sean at Retro Game Revived and his fantastic video about video game pronunciation. And it is quite a big deal, and seriously it's a big deal to me, especially with Suikoden. Anyone who pronounces it Suikoden, as far as I'm concerned, they deserve a good slap in the backside. But let's not get into that here, let's get into that down in the comments. But more importantly, if you've enjoyed this video, pop over to Sean, watch his video, maybe do a VR yourself, mention in the comments if there's any words that get mispronounced that drive you crazy, and do a VR, do a response to a VR, do a response to a response to a VR. It'll be total response VR inception. But thank you very much for taking the time to watch this fun little video. I hope you found it fun anyway. And until next time, as always, cheerio!
Shenmue.